Okay, we are back. Thank you for joining us today. This is Todd Sylvester with the Todd Sylvester Inspires Beliefcast. Thank you once again. I'm excited for the guest we have on today. Her name is Brittany Rodrigues. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I can't wait for people to hear your story, and I'm excited to tell our listeners how I know you. I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Veracity Networks, and my good friend Drew Peterson. Thank you so much for believing in me and believing in this podcast and getting it out to so many people and the listeners. Thank you once again. You guys are amazing. We're trending, which is so cool, which I never thought I'd be able to say that.
Woohoo!
I know, it's pretty cool stuff.
You're trendy, Todd.
Yeah. I don't know about that, but I'm just pumped, and I know that these words today and this story is going to help a lot of people today, and I'm just grateful for this opportunity to have Brittany in studio today. I want to give a little background how I know Brittany. Brittany is my head coach at the Sandy Orangetheory Fitness, and I've been there I think a little over 2 months now, maybe almost 3.
I think you came right after the quarantine.
Probably, yeah. And I love it. I'm telling you, it's like my morning meds. I can't wait to get there. I love it. And it really is a great way to start the day. And Brittany is the head coach, fitness coach at the Orangetheory in Sandy, Utah. I know she helps out at all the other Orangetheories as well when they need her. She's a fitness and nutritionist coach. She's the mother of 4. She's packed with energy. I mean, I'm telling you, you are so like energetic and positive, and that's one of the reasons why I love your class so much.
Thank you so much.
Is just for that reason, because a lot of times we're there at 5 a.m. early in the morning, and
absolutely.
Here we are. So, but yeah, I want to start off. I want people to get to know you a little better. Tell us where you grew up and a little bit about your family.
Sure, absolutely. So I actually grew up in Hillsboro, Oregon, which is right outside of Portland. I'm so sad, Portland. Oh, now. Yes. I know. But yeah, I grew up there. I spent most of my childhood there. And right around graduation, I knew I kind of wanted to get out and spread my wings, and I wanted to play basketball. So kind of similar to your upbringing. Nice. Basketball was one of the loves of my life, playing sports. So I looked to come out to BYU to play basketball. So that's kind of what brought me out here. But came out here to play basketball and wound up actually playing for New Zealand instead. And so my path went a little different, but
wow.
But yeah, I loved my time out in Oregon, but I fell in love with Utah when I came out here. Didn't know that I was going to stay. But met my husband out here, and we just kind of decided that this was a great place to raise kids. So Utah really now has become my home. I definitely call Utah my home. Okay. So lived here longer than where I've lived now in Oregon. So I think I can officially call myself.
Right. Do you have siblings?
I do. Yes. So I'm the second youngest of 6. So I've got a couple sisters, and I've got 3 brothers, and so we're kind of all spread out. But I have a couple of my siblings that actually live in Utah right now. So I recruited, brought my family out here, and my father lives out here. And so,
nice.
So
you grew up obviously involved in sports, it sounds like. Was it just basketball, or was it other things?
No, I played just about any sport I could get my hands on. So I played soccer. Basketball was probably the sport I was the best at.
Okay.
And I played softball, but pretty much anything that involved scoring points and being physically active, I pretty much got involved in. So basketball was the main thing. And then I was a theater nerd. I loved, that's actually how I paid my way through college, was a theater scholarship. So I have the 2 sides of me, Todd.
Yeah, I wouldn't have guessed that. And that's pretty amazing. That's quite the contrast too, a little bit,
Well, it comes in handy when I'm coaching to have a little flair for the dramatic.
And you do, man. People who've been in her class, man, I'm telling you, you come at us hard, and I love it.
It's a production, right? Yeah. Well, it's 5 a.m. You have to be a little bit entertained.
Absolutely.
Right? We can't be flat and boring.
Yeah. So tell us, I guess, being involved in theater and sports as a young kid, how did that benefit you growing up?
I think it definitely kept me out of trouble. I don't think I had a knack for getting into trouble, but it taught me a lot of principles. I am a huge believer that sports and being involved in something like that you love and that you're passionate about can give you a little bit more purpose behind just the everyday mundane.
Right.
I saw a lot of kids getting into trouble or getting involved in drugs and alcohol that were probably dealing with a lot of troubling things at home. Right. And I think just being involved in sports alone just kept my focus. I just enjoyed it too. We didn't have a lot of money growing up. The thing I really wanted to do was I wanted to be a professional dancer. Okay. That was my heart, is right. I wanted to be a dancer in the worst way. And we did not have money for me to take dance classes. Yeah. But I remember there was a little dance studio just down the sidewalk from where my parents worked at. And I used to go walk down the sidewalk and just watch in the windows and watch the dance classes and think, oh, I wonder if I can pick up on what they're doing here. So, but I was always good at sports, and I do love sports. So that was the way I went. And then I waited until I got into college and I got to make some of those decisions for myself. And that's when I started taking dance classes and thought, you know what? I'm an old lady by dance world standards and I don't care. Right. I was an old lady at 18.
Right.
And that's when I got involved in it, and kind of helped me out getting involved with musical theater, and just another area of passion and love of mine. So
yeah. Are you still involved in that at all at this stage of your life?
Oh gosh, I'll dance all day long, right? Am I great at it and taking lessons? Not currently. Hey, I'll bust out a dance move in class.
For sure, yes, you will.
You know, it's interesting that you say that, because it was only about a year and a half ago, I was actually having a really good conversation at an Orangetheory with Robert Redford's daughter. Really? Not to drop names or anything, but I say that specifically because she's so involved, in the entertainment world.
Oh, right.
And we were talking about acting in different movies and things, because I got involved with, doing some film work and things while I was in college. And I didn't pursue it, and I thought I would. I was ready to pack up my bags and go to LA and get an agent. And I had a few different actors that had said, we'll set you up. We'll get you right in line with the best agent. We'll help you get a place to stay. I had all the reasons in the world to go out there and follow and pursue this passion of mine. And there was always something that held me back. There was something that just said, not now. And
interesting.
And I look back on that, and I'm so grateful that I followed that instinct to not go. Because there's so many wonderful things that came into my life, including meeting my husband and, another path that I was supposed to follow. And I don't know to this day if I had gone out there, what would have happened, or, but I was having that conversation with her, how I just miss doing a little bit of acting or being involved in a play or a show. And she said, well, your life isn't over. Why not do it now? I was like, oh, I'm a mom. I got 4 kids. She's like, I'm a mom. Yeah. She's like, you can do this. And, the acting world is very strong in Utah. There's the Sundance Film Festival is huge. Yeah, she's like, girl, get your resume together. And so she was kind of giving me a nudge to do that. So I haven't done anything like that in a while, but I definitely appreciate it and love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've known you for a few months now, and obviously my family loves you, my daughter especially.
Oh, I love your family.
She's done your class a ton, and she's been trying to get me to join your class. This and that. You got to meet this Britt. She's so confident and energetic, and you've really inspired my family in a lot of ways, and I want to thank you for that. I want to ask you though, the reason why I bring that up is you are a very confident, energetic individual. Have you always been like that? Was it like that when you were growing up? Did you always have this type of confidence that you have now?
No. I mean, are there a lot of teenagers that are confident? I think there's an exterior of it. Mm-hmm. I don't even think, I feel like I'm very different than what I was growing up. And I think with sports and things, I didn't walk around with my shoulders forward and my head down, but I was definitely not confident. In fact, probably just the opposite. And I would say one of the things that helped me kind of stay afloat is I had an amazing mother. And I have a great father as well. I had great parents. Let me put it that way.
Okay.
But my mom was extraordinary. She was exceptional. Still is. I lost my mother a couple of years ago, but she, I think, was that person that was always telling me, you can do whatever you want. You want to do this, you pursue it. You're amazing, Britt, just always building that up. And I think that's what saved me, because I didn't have a lot of other adults in my life or leaders that were building me up. I had some pretty abusive coaches, to be honest.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Okay. I had one basketball coach in particular, and this is a sport that I love and really enjoy.
Right. Yeah.
And even my senior year of high school, I actually quit the basketball team halfway through, and I had never quit a thing before in my life.
Yeah.
But to the point of my emotional well-being and the abuse, I would go home in tears every single day. Just, the language he would use, telling us we're not good enough. He used to pull big garbage bins out onto the floor when we do conditioning, and he'd say, I want you guys puking in these by the end of the session when we were doing conditioning. And then the moment we'd start puking, he'd say, you're puking already. And if we weren't, he'd say, you're not working hard enough. And it was that kind of thing. And just, it wasn't positive. It wasn't what sports are supposed to be, especially for teenagers. Yeah. And my mom's like, why are you doing this? I said, I don't know. And I was also involved in the school play, the musical at the time. And I just, no matter what I tried to do in high school, I couldn't get parts. I couldn't get any main parts in play. I'd always get like the background ensemble that like we let all the kids in on this one. Right. And so, I loved theater, and I loved acting, and I loved singing so much. And I questioned myself all growing up that I wasn't good enough in anything. I thought I'm just good enough to maybe participate in everything, but I'd never felt like I excelled or was really great at anything. And I wanted to be great at something.
Right.
And so, kind of to your question, I think what changed and what made me become more confident, and I still struggle with that. I'm human. I have a ton of insecurities. Is there's something about when I graduated high school that made me snap, that I got tired of, theater directors never casting me, or my basketball coach saying you'll never amount to anything. And I said, I'll show you. And I kind of took this, you say I can't do this, watch me.
Watch me, yeah.
So that's when I went out to Utah, said, I'm going to make a basketball team if it kills me.
Sure.
Because I missed out on college scouts by quitting that team.
Yeah, because it's your senior year.
Absolutely, my senior year. And I came out to Utah, and I thought, I'm going to outwork everybody. I'm going to make this team as a walk-on.
I love that.
Started training with the team and started having little bits of anxiety of, do I want to do this? Because all the experiences negative with a coach started coming back and going, I'm here, I'm at college, I want to enjoy myself. Do I want to deal with another coach? I didn't have very positive viewpoint of coaches at this point.
Yeah.
And New Zealand came around, and it was knowing the right people. They do exhibition tours to the U.S. every single year.
Okay.
And this particular season, they had several pregnant players. They had some injured players. And so they usually recruit 1 or 2 Americans to come play on the team.
Okay.
And someone that knew me said, hey, why don't you go try out? And they said, there's this girl, let her come try out for you. And I said, sure, why not? And so it was like me and a handful of players on the team. And they said, just come play some pickups with us. And so I just kind of did an individual tryout, and they invited me onto the team on the spot after that. And so I walked away from trying out with BYU. I said, this is it. And that's what clicked. This is what I needed.
Wow. That's awesome.
So I kind of got to feel that love of getting to play the sport competitively. And, we toured around the U.S. and it was amazing. I don't know how I didn't flunk out of college that year.
Right.
Because I didn't ask permission. I informed my professors, hey, I'm going to be on this traveling team. And so, kind of a blur. But when you're, 19 and 20, you basically just say it'll all work out somehow.
I'll figure it out.
I'll figure it out. Basketball first, everything else last.
Right.
So I got to go and kind of fulfill that love of basketball, and had a great experience. And I didn't give my entire college career to it. So it was perfect. It was exactly what I needed. And so that was like, check that little box right there. I don't need that coach's validation. Like, I am good enough.
Yeah.
And then on the theater side, never making roles and parts, I struggled going to BYU. I got myself involved in the theater department. And I don't know if people know listening, but BYU is incredibly renowned in their theater and their music department, the arts. And the level of talent that comes out of there is absolutely phenomenal. And most of them actually get work.
Really? Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
I didn't know that either.
It's
actually
incredibly competitive. I mean, if you don't go in there with at least some kind of strong sense of self, you could be very intimidated.
Yeah.
And I had to fake it completely. I felt like I was completely out of my league, but I enrolled in classes and thought, well, all I can do is learn and try to get better. And my first year there, I made a main stage play, which are kind of hard to get into.
Yeah.
I didn't have a big role. I didn't care. I learned and grew and kind of got myself involved in a lot of acting classes. And then I don't even know how it came to be, but I got offered a full ride scholarship in theater over actually at UVSC.
No
so
way. That's
awesome. I can't remember if someone came and saw me in a play or I walked over and I inquired about it and auditioned, details, but they offered it to me and I was so grateful. So I transferred to UVSC and finished out my career doing musical theater over there. And the first show I tried out for, I got the lead role, and that was such a pivotal point for me because it was honestly the first lead role I got in a show was in college on this full ride scholarship with people that were validating me and saying, you are good and you can do this. And I was still wondering, gosh, can I do this?
Yeah, like they picked me.
I'm like, I hope they don't find out that I actually stink at this. But I needed that. And it was like, once I kind of hit that little check mark, it was like, what's next?
Right. I think that happens a lot with people where you work hard for something and then you actually achieve something or you get an opportunity. And I think our minds sometimes go to, oh boy.
Yeah.
Am I really up for this?
Yeah.
Right?
Or, oh my gosh, I'm such a fraud.
Yeah, I'm a fraud.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do they call that? The imposter
syndrome?
Where you feel like, okay, I'm really just going through the motions here.
What can I do to make sure they never find out that I'm actually the biggest nerd?
Yeah. I think that happens a lot, Well, that's interesting, that story and how that all worked out. I mean, it's like you even said, it's perfectly, what you actually needed.
Yeah.
And I think, going back to what happened with you and your high school coach, I've heard a lot of stories in those kind of areas where a coach, and again, I'm not here to bag on coaches that coach high school sports or even college sports, but I think sometimes they come across to where they're actually causing at times some trauma to some of these kids. Absolutely. By the way they, treat them or their expectations are so high.
The dialogue that they have with these kids, they don't, I think, sometimes appreciate how much these kids are internalizing every word they say.
Yeah.
How I got involved in basketball, Todd, and I remember this to this day. Mm-hmm. This is how impactful it was. I was in the second grade, I believe it was, and I was in a PE class and we were playing basketball. And the PE teacher came up and said, wow, Brittany, you are a basketball player. And I said, I am. And I remember going home and I believed it. I was like, I am a basketball player.
Wow.
And it helps that I've been basically 5'10" since like the 9th grade, but because that PE teacher, and I was probably terrible. I probably like carried the ball all the way down the court and like granny shot it or something, or who knows what I did, but they told me that you are amazing and you are this person. And I believed it.
Wow.
And it didn't even hit me until I was an adult what that PE teacher did. Cause I always wondered, why did I get so involved in basketball? Why did I work so hard at it? And, at least to a degree, become good at it. And I remember, gosh, that was that moment back then that I was like, I'm a basketball player. And so I remember, telling my parents, I'm a basketball player and I need to play basketball and falling in love with it. And maybe I would have still loved it even if they hadn't said something, but I think that was really impactful.
Yeah. The power of words. I mean, what if they would have said, hey, what are you doing? You can't play basketball. You know? And you would have internalized that maybe and said, well, yeah, I'm never touching a ball ever again.
Yeah.
Just because of what someone said.
Sports probably aren't for you, sweetheart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that could have played out in a different way had someone said it in that way.
Yep.
Wow. It just, as you say that, and I've always known this, but the power of words to others and how we internalize things that way, it's really remarkable, good or bad.
It has changed how I speak to my children. It's when my kids, and actually this even ties back to when I used to work with youth in a therapeutic boarding school and help them in their treatment journey. early when I was in college. And so I think during that time before I started having children, I started learning a lot of skills on communication, because sometimes what we mean is not what we say.
Right.
And we have to be aware of that too. But I remember going into this thing as a parent going, oh gosh, how do I do this? Right. What became really important to me was the language that I use with my children, because when my children make decisions that put them in trouble, or they make a mistake, instead of saying, you're terrible, or you know, you're bad, or anything like
right.
that is identifying them, it's, you made a bad choice, you know, or that was your choice, and tying it back to what they do. You are a phenomenal person and you're a child of God, but you made a bad choice.
Oh, that's a good way to do that. How have you noticed that's, you know, seeing your kids react to that type of parenting? How is it, have you noticed, how do they take to that?
I think so. And I even think it took my husband a little bit of time to get on board, and not to fault him, because when we, you know, got into this, I'd had years of, you know, I graduated in psychology. I took parenting classes, which we can all laugh about this, right? Taking a parenting class does not mean that you are now, quote unquote, so ready to be a parenting expert. I am an expert now because I had my parenting class, right? I mean, all of us parents out there love when we get advice from people who aren't parents, right? It's awesome.
Sure.
So, but it did help that I had a lot of years where I had training, and, you know, what kind of language is useful and helpful. And so I was a lot more aware of it. Yeah. And I remember my husband would have moments where he'd get upset, and, you know, and he would say, you know, you're so stupid for doing this. And I would go, whoa, let's pump the brakes. Right. And I'd kind of have to pull him aside and say, I know what you mean, but this is what came out. Yeah. And that was not a smart decision. I said, everything has to be your decision, your choices, not you. Yeah. And he finally, and to his credit, he's like, you're right. You know, and of course not intentionally or anything like that, sure. But, and he's great at that today, but that's taken, you know, it takes practice. It takes time. When we get frustrated with any individual or human being, it's easy to say things differently, but that words are so powerful. Yeah.
Wow. Thanks for sharing that. So you said you're involved helping the youth, and kind of talk about why did you do that, and why did you want to, you know, get involved with helping the youth in that way? Well,
you know, I kind of fell into it when I was going to college. I changed my major about 500 times, like everybody else. It went from broadcast journalism. I wanted to be a sports broadcaster and cover the Super Bowl. I wanted to go to New York and be on right. We can laugh about the you know, array. I wanted to be basically everything but a rocket scientist. That sounded boring. Right. But everything else sounded amazing. And I, you know, international business, and, you know, what do I want to do? I probably was the most confused person in college as far as trying to figure out what direction my life would go. And not a single thought of it had anything to do with being a personal trainer or coaching, although health and fitness has always been in my vocabulary, has been a part of my life since I was a young child. Yeah. But so how I got involved with kids, I decided to kind of get involved in taking a lot of like psychology classes, and I realized I really like this stuff. This doesn't freak me out at all. Like abnormal psychology was probably my favorite class in college. Yeah. And I loved studying about the mind and behaviors and people. And I flat out just needed a job. Right. And I think I just heard about this job opening at this treatment center, and the pay seemed pretty great. And you get to go in, you help out these kids, these teenagers. And I thought, I was a teenager like yesterday. I can do this. Right. So I applied and got the job, which was right in my field. And my mind was blown. Like, I learned so much, and I was challenged in so many areas, but I realized that I love teenagers, that they didn't freak me out, that they were very misunderstood. And I think I identified with them because all the insecurities and the struggles they were going through, I legitimately felt like I had experienced just 5 days ago. Because I remember feeling those feelings in high school of feeling a little bit like I was a loser, or like that I was trying so hard to fit in, and how just your world is so high school and your peers. and the people around you. And that's so important. And how dismissive sometimes adults can be of that, because we think that's just silly. That's just what your peers, or that's just high school. But that is their world. And that is important, to the point
for sure
that they're willing to take their life, you know, and suicide is an epidemic amongst teenagers. And so I saw that these hard, tough exteriors, when you break down through them, they're just these beautiful kids and have so much to offer the world. And I started to see my bucket get filled, helping them. And even on days, I had days where I had girls I had to put into, like, I guess I'll call it the timeout area, right? When they would get physical or a little out of control. And I've had milk jugs thrown at my head before, you know, I've been called every name in the book. So I've experienced that, and I've seen, like, just how tough that they have it emotionally, mentally, and what got them there. And so I started to really love trying to break through that and get to the real person and have those breakthroughs, because I thought, gosh, they've got such a life ahead of them. You know, we got to fix this, because, and I just wanted so much for them to get the message that life can be so beautiful and amazing, and you're in the trenches right now, and there's such a bigger world out there. And it actually tied back to an experience that I had in high school. My junior year, I spent in Germany as an exchange student. So actually that had a lot to do with a lot of my own transformation, even going into my senior year. So definitely insecurity, a lot of insecurities. Like, I think a lot of normal kids played a lot of sports, did
Pretty
that.
Normal,
had a rock star mom. And I applied for a scholarship to go to Germany, be an exchange student for a year. So, and I got it. It was actually a government scholarship, because they wanted to keep good relationships with the country. So this is an ongoing program they do every year. And so I was like one of, 2 kids in my state, and it was just kids throughout the whole U.S. And so I spent a year abroad, and that was a crazy year, Todd. I was introduced to drugs and alcohol. I didn't do any drugs. I did try just about all the alcohol, which, I always used to say, is my mother listening? She knows. I told her a little later in life, I grew up, a devout member of the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints. I still am. But I grew up in a household that never touched or saw alcohol or drugs of any kind. With a very strong value and belief system, and you don't do those things. And I was never tempted to do those things. I really wasn't. And then I went and spent a year abroad, and I suddenly had adults offering me these things. And I had, I wouldn't say I lost all sense of, for me, what I felt like was right or wrong, but I kind of went through I'm never going to do this again in my life. So I'm just going to try. Not the best idea. And luckily I didn't fall into any addictions or anything because of it, but it was like, I'm going to try this. And, it was my year of try everything, but I wouldn't touch the drugs. And I'm glad that I didn't. But I wound up having even issues with my host family that I was staying with, and wound up switching families. At one point during Christmas time, I didn't have a home to stay at, and I was sleeping off couches, and I wouldn't tell my mom any of this, because she would have gotten on a plane and come to Germany and yanked me right out of that country.
She would have come.
Can you imagine as a parent? Your teenager is there. So this was before cell phones, and before it was just so easy to FaceTime and call someone and check up on how they're doing. So it was a lot easier to hide everything that was going on. And I had to make a decision. I couldn't face the embarrassment of going home early, and she couldn't hack it for the year or whatever. And even my 16-year-old self recognized that this year would be a year of growth for me if I would just gut it out. I made great friends. I learned the language. I went to German schools. So I am so glad I'm glad even at 16, I had like a droplet of wisdom to know that even though it was a really hard year, that a lot of great things were going to come out of it. And I became such a stronger person, very independent. I really learned to live on my own. A family eventually took me in that just treated me like a college student. There's your room. They dropped me off at school. I'm in a foreign country. I barely knew the language. And bye. Have a nice day.
Good luck.
So I I couldn't be this sheltered girl from Oregon anymore. I had to, figure it out.
You had to rise to the occasion.
Yeah, I had to rise to the occasion. And when I would talk to my mom, everything is great. It's great. She's like, Brittany, what's going on? No, things are great. And and a few times she said she almost came over, and I'm glad she didn't.
Right.
So after that year, I think going into my senior year, I was ready. I loved my home. I had a great home, great parents, but I was ready to leave. I was ready to go out and see the world. I was ready to go off to college, be on my own at that point. And that helped a lot. So I wanted these teenagers to know that there are so many neat experiences out there. There's, they are valued. They have worth, they have talents and abilities that the world needs.
Right.
And I got to be a part of witnessing that. I wasn't their therapist, I wasn't a trained therapist, but we worked with their therapist, to help support them in that. And, one boy in particular, of course, I won't use names, but he came from the South, and he came from a family that hung the Confederate flag out front, and they're very, very racist family, very racist upbringing.
Oh, wow.
And I remember we were sitting in a group, and we were doing a group session, and one of the girls in the group, it was a young, beautiful black girl.
Right.
And I adored all of them, every single kid in this group. And he just had his head down the whole time, and he was really struggling. And we asked him, what are you feeling? And he finally just was so vulnerable. And he said, I was raised to not talk to this girl and to not, like this person. And I'm just having a hard time, because he's like, I don't want to feel like that.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh,
yeah.
Oh, wow. We were breaking through like those, prejudices and feelings, and getting to the heartstrings of this person. And I thought, gosh, these are these teenagers, and, they might even be even more open to change than sometimes adults are. But as adults, that's how we are too, right?
Yeah.
If we can break through and break down limiting beliefs or preconceived notions or things that we thought we knew, and be open to learning and growing, like that's beautiful. And to be a part of that and witness that. And he learned, being around this girl, that black people aren't so bad. That color of skin, doesn't mean anything.
Doesn't mean anything.
It means nothing.
Wow. Yeah, kids are so, like you said, vulnerable. Like when it really comes down to it, and they're like, what's going on? These people are just as good and equal to me. Yeah. That's a powerful story. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
There's so much I want to ask you and talk about. Again, these stories you just shared, the things you've been through, like, being over in Germany and doing all that stuff. And it was Germany, right?
Yeah, it was
making
Germany.
Sure I said that right.
Yep. You got it.
I mean, that in itself, again, like I said earlier, you come across as this very confident, and I know you have your issues. We all have our issues. But what do you do to maintain that confidence? I mean, again, I know you have your trials and you have your days probably where you don't feel so confident.
Sure.
But what do you do in those days when you are struggling and you are having a rough time? How do you pull yourself up? What do you do? And what could you share with us that could help us understand that better?
I think I will say something I've learned about myself, and it's funny because I just turned 40 like a week ago.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. I know, cat's out of the bag. I'm not 25, Todd. I knew you were going to ask that, right? You thought I was 25. How have you had these experiences?
I was going to say 26, but
26.
Yes.
But one of the things that took me a long time to learn about myself or identify is that I am very much an empath. And I've kind of researched this term because I thought, what exactly is what is an empath? I think depending on the definition that you look up, sometimes they attach like a supernatural thing to it. And that always makes me laugh and go, okay, I have nothing supernatural. But basically what I identified was over the years, and this always was something that I looked at as a weakness. or maybe not even a weakness, but a burden, is that I'm an extremely sensitive person. Growing up, I was super sensitive, and I didn't want to be a sensitive person. I wanted to be that girl that's tough as nails.
Yeah.
I wanted to be, because my mom is tough as nails, but of course she has a very sensitive side to her and everything. And my mom is also very sensitive, but my mom is that business owner, take no prisoners, like just, own the world.
Yeah.
I mean, we could do a 10-part podcast just on my mom's life.
Right.
She's that kind of person.
Wow.
But I hated that I was so affected by not only my own emotions, but other people's. And so I think sometimes as a quote unquote empath is that you oftentimes legitimately feel the feelings that other people are having.
Yeah.
And I hated it for so long because it can be hard. I hated that I would be so sensitive to things or to the point where sometimes I wanted to be angry at somebody, but all they'd have to tell me is a little bit of their story or be vulnerable. And I felt it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I can't be angry at them anymore because I feel that pain that they're feeling.
Right.
And that's exhausting, like taking on other people's emotions.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to learn to protect yourself a little bit,
because
you can drain your own bucket emotionally. And actually, this is kind of a common problem in the world of even coaching and training. If you do it right, is that you're constantly filling people's buckets. If you're even remotely good at your job, that's just part of what you do.
Yeah.
But a lot of times struggle to refill that bucket. You can't keep draining. And so I forever thought, I think it's just weird. How am I feeling what this person feels? I hardly know them. Or why am I all of a sudden feeling this way or that? And I just wish I could turn it off. I wanted to be more numb to emotions. And then as I've matured and got a little older, I realized that's a gift. Tapping into emotions, that those I believe are a gift from God, that like Heavenly Father gives us like these abilities so that we can connect with human beings and that we can be there for them. And, one of my gifts is the gift of charity, and it's taken me years to like understand what does that mean.
Yeah.
Like in my church, we talk a lot about and not my church, but a lot of people's churches, charity being like the pure love of Christ. And so I thought, what exactly does that mean? I'm definitely not pure. I'm not this great person. And I would immediately kind of dismiss it. But I think on days where I don't feel confident which is like, sometimes I want to say it's like every day. Every day it's a dialogue that you have to have with yourself. And I've gotten really good at having internal dialogues. And this isn't something if you're listening and you're thinking, well, that's not my gift or that's not me. It doesn't have to be something you're born with. You can develop it too.
Sure.
It just happened to be something that I was really good at.
Yeah.
And one thing that I have talked to clients and friends and things about what's helped me is that I actually have a lot of internal dialogue with myself all day long. And when someone says something to me, because I'm super sensitive, that on normally would be a snap judgment or that hurt my feelings, or what do they mean by that? Like, girl, you aren't fat, you're big boned. It's like those comments that you would get where you're like, what did you mean by that? Yeah, it's just kind of those little comments that people can make in everyday life. Sure. I've gotten to a point in my life where I'm pretty good at stopping, putting the pause on those emotions, taking almost a step back and saying, if I put myself right in their shoes, what did they actually mean? Right. Were they trying to insult me or were they trying to be rude? No. They probably have zero idea that what they said was rude. They probably actually meant, and I choose to believe that they didn't mean it in a rude way, that they meant to say, you're actually fabulous or whatever, and whether they did or not, I choose to take something more as a compliment, or I choose to believe that that it was not intended to be looked at like that. Or, it's kind of like, you ever listen to movie trailers? Yeah. I feel like I create a movie trailer for myself every day. Right. She gets out of bed and she was exhausted, but little did they know she showed up to coach. It's just like my life is a movie trailer in my head sometimes. And I have to make that trailer really exciting. And I have to choose really what I'm going to do about it. How do we respond to people? It's like, my particular job is not about me. It's about when I show up to work, all my energy and focus is on you and is on all the members who walk through the door. It's not about me anymore. It's not about how tired I am. I share some of myself with you guys because that's how we have those moments that are cathartic, and that's how we connect.
Yes.
Right. If all I did was show up and rattle off, cues and, I could take you through a workout, but you would probably leave not feeling much more uplifted. And to me, I haven't done my job if I haven't left you better than I got you. And
you do a good job at that, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
You really do.
It's really important to me, and that you're there to get a physical workout, but also I want you to emotionally walk away feeling better. I want you to smile. I want you to maybe forget about your troubles for a moment, because that hour is your hour, not my hour, but I get so much out of it in return just by being a part of that and working with you guys. So that actually is kind of my secret weapon when I'm feeling not confident about myself. I throw all my energy into the people I'm working with and make it about you. Then when I hear about your milestone or a PR you just broke, or when I think I'm just trucking along wondering if man, am I making any kind of a difference today? And I'll have a member pull me aside and say, I'm sorry, I just have to tell you something. I'm like, sure. And sometimes it's just in a very quick passing. Yeah. And they break down in tears and say, you've made such an impact on my life. And when I came here, I was feeling this about myself. And then you said this to me, and they quote back something I said to them, and it meant so much. I'm just like putty. I'm just falling to the ground because, and those moments, I don't care about how I look or, what prestige or anything like that. It's, wow, I made a difference in this person's life, and it wasn't because I'm famous. It wasn't because of being pretty. It wasn't because of anything outside of I served them and I loved them and I made a little change in their life for them. That is more rewarding than any paycheck or any amount of prestige or that I think I could ever get, to be honest with you.
Wow. Very well said. I love that. And I love what you said about that inner dialogue. That internal dialogue is so important. And if it's negative, how it can really destroy us. Yeah. It can ruin our day, but not only our day, I mean, that's kind of like what opens that door to feeling depressed and sad. And so I love that you say, okay, I have that inner dialogue. I'm going to start talking to myself, but I'm going to start saying something more positive, and you kind of pull yourself out of that. And I love that. I think for our listeners, especially hearing this is what a great way to do something. And it's so simple, but it seems hard in the moment because you're not feeling well. Yeah. Right. But I love that. And it reminds me of of this fact that the most powerful force in the human psyche is the story we tell ourselves about ourselves. Absolutely. And that's and you described it beautifully, like the way you spelled that out for us.
Create a movie trailer for yourself of a movie you would want to watch. Yeah. I like right? That. Yeah. Like you wake up there. What was that commercial they did? It was but the guy was getting in. I mean, who watches commercials anymore, right? But
what's a commercial?
Okay, so, right. What is a commercial? This is how old I am. I used to have to watch those darn things just to watch my show. It's like, well. But one of my favorite commercials, and it still sticks with me, is and I don't even know what they're advertising. Right? Isn't that how it goes? But it was like the guy getting in the elevator, and he like hears this internal like music, and it's like dun 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 dun, but it's his name, Dan 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 Dan, and he's like singing his own song, and he's like getting psyched to go to work, and he's wearing a suit, and I love that because it's like you almost sometimes have to have that, like, for sure. I have had days where I've had some real pain and dark days, especially I would say after the death of my mom, and even leading up to it, and some real losses, financially, and had to show up to go coach a class. And, I don't work in a call center. Your face advertises quite a lot. Absolutely. And I've had to walk through the door when I literally felt so broken that I didn't know how I was going to breathe. And I was so terrified that everybody would see right through me that day and ask if I was okay. And I couldn't have that. And I had to put on the acting show of my life to get through. And I'd like to say that I was pretty good at putting on, you have to find any way to laugh. You have to find any way to smile. And my quickest go-to is ask other people how they're doing. Ask them, make it about them, make it about them. And I had a few moments where I had one or two that reached out and said, something's different today. Yeah. And then waiting until class is done and you go in the back office and you cry,
Yeah, sure.
It's just like, it's that human experience, and it is what it is. And it definitely makes us stronger when we have to face that music. Yeah. And I would say anybody that is like going through something really hard like that, where they feel so hopeless. And it's a win getting out of bed and just putting your clothes on and maybe going to your job or going where you need to go and going through the motions, or maybe getting up and getting your kids a meal and getting them to school, whatever it is, of those little tasks, like those are wins, because a lot of people choose to not even get up and go face the day.
Yeah. Wow. Very well said. Thank you for sharing that. That's, that kind of ties into my next question. I know there's probably someone listening to this story right now that's probably struggling, going through a hard time. What advice, and you pretty much already have it, if they're really in that dark space, and they're not sure what to do, what advice could you give them to kind of pull out of it? I know you even said, we were talking about this before we even went live, is that you were saying how the mind and the body are connected.
Yeah.
How fitness really plays a part in how we think and feel, right?
Yeah.
So if you could tie that in and kind of give us some advice, and especially for those listening that might be having a hard day right now.
Absolutely. And one of the reasons I got involved in coaching and being a personal trainer before I started coaching like Orangetheory is that I realized I started off, I was doing a free boot camp for friends. It was friends asking me, hey, Britt, you work out all the time, so can you show me some things to do? And it grew into this big boot camp. And I realized I enjoy this. I like putting a workout together, and I'm actually pretty good at this. Yeah. And people were just, that was the best part of my day, and on and on. And I was seeing all these little moments happening, and that sparked me to go get more education, go get certified, make it official, because I was having people ask me all the time, will you train me? Like, I said, I will help you, I won't take any money, I'm not a trainer. And finally went and got certified, did all these things. So I say this leading into your question because as a personal trainer, I have had so many sessions with people, one-on-ones. Yeah. And also in group sessions, but obviously in a one-on-one, sometimes we can have that more intimate setting, right? Where the whole session was probably more an emotional breakdown than anything. And I'm so relieved when we get to those sessions, because that's when the real work happens. Sure. There is something that is so real about the body physically breaking down that breaks down our emotional barriers. The mind and body connection is absolutely fascinating. It's not a theory and not a myth. There's a reason why sometimes, like when people do a religious fast, why do we go without food? Why that? Why the actual, why do we make ourselves hungry and weak and tired and a little bit miserable? How does that make me closer to God? But really though, because sometimes we have this physical barrier, our bodies, right? And we have to sometimes allow our bodies to be weakened, to break down before our mind is willing to open and kind of be stubborn. It's almost like we can physically fight our emotional stubbornness. Right. But when we're so physically tired that we don't have any fight left in us, sometimes we surrender. And just, that's when some really cathartic and breakthroughs happen. Yeah. And it's no coincidence why oftentimes when people will go and physically do a workout that leaves them just, down to like no energy, and they're just a pile on the floor, is when sometimes all these emotions will come up. It happens even in yoga. Yeah. It happens in all different types of exercises, not just the crazy sweaty ones, but this happens a lot in yoga, where people go and that mind body connection and something gets tapped in and triggered. And all of a sudden they're like, I'm in yoga class and I am crying and I don't know why. because we break our bodies down, and it opens the mind sometimes to those things that we try to be tough and push away, or that maybe we're not even aware, maybe we're not even intentionally. So I loved as a trainer, to me, it was really important that, you changing the body, that's just your physical exterior. That's a symptom of deeper problems.
Right.
But that's sometimes that physical barrier that we have to get through to get to the real problem, to get to the real change. As a trainer, when I look at somebody who is obese, especially obese, I mean, we can get overweight for a lot of reasons, right?
Right.
But when I look at someone who's obese, I don't go, ew, what a lazy person who can't stay away from the donuts.
Right.
Not even close. My heart is broken because I say, there's some pain there.
Yeah.
That is an outward symptom of real pain that is happening on the inside.
Yeah. And
no one will convince me of otherwise, because they did not get there, because they just couldn't say no to donuts. There's so much more that's going on, and it's not just obese people. There's so many of us that have that. And so what I would say to people too is that right now, if you're going through a lot of depression, sometimes if you're also just not being physically active, your body's is missing out on so many of those endorphins and things that it needs to even cope with the difficulties or the stressful situation that is contributing to the depression. You know, depression comes from so many different areas, situational, and, you know, sometimes it's just chemical. Sometimes it's, I'm sorry, I grew up with amazing parents and amazing home. I don't have some compelling story as to why I'm depressed. I just feel depressed. That's okay. That's real.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of chemical imbalances and things that are contributing to that. Like, there doesn't need to be judgments as to why or how someone got depressed, right? Or is feeling dark and in that hole. Sometimes to the world, that person has it all together and they have no idea what kind of pain they have. And so I think sometimes if you can even just get your body moving, and find a positive outlet for it. If you hate running's not going to be your physical outlet. You know, maybe going hiking in the mountains. There's so many different ways to move your body, but you have to find that thing that you can stick to.
Gotcha.
Because I think that's where sometimes change does start to take place.
Yeah.
You know, people shed weight all the time, and I see them all of a sudden change careers, or they, you know, get in or out of different relationships because they are finally at a place where they're seeing toxicity in their life, and they're purging that.
Wow.
So it's like, you know, I just think as far as like dealing with some of those feelings, or if you're just feeling so in a hole, don't be afraid to reach out and ask for help. Yeah. I love that. And correct me if you disagree, but I think the stigma of having counseling and help and sharing these kinds of experiences, the negative stigma that used to be attached to it, I feel like is starting to kind of go away. Yeah. It's becoming a lot more mainstream.
Yeah, I think it's definitely lifting for sure. There's still there on some level, but yeah, for sure it's going in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. I mean, I graduated in psychology, so I've always been a believer in the benefits of therapy, but I didn't start seeing a therapist until after my mom's death. And, you know, I think there's nothing wrong with reaching out for help. Yeah. And even if it's not even a licensed therapist, if there's someone in your life, there are people probably in your life that want to help and have no idea, potentially, the depth of like pain or despair that somebody is in. Oftentimes after people wind up in treatment, or heaven forbid, even wind up taking their lives, you know, there's almost always someone that was in their life that said, I had no idea it was that bad. So I think we have to be not afraid to speak up and speak out and ask for help. And there's no shame in that. And in fact, it takes courage to do that and to ask for help. I almost wanted to leave the fitness industry so many times because, you know, it's brutal. It's hard. And the truth is, being a fitness coach, a personal trainer, whatever title you want to give it, when you're in the fitness industry, people hold you to a standard that sometimes feels a little impossible. Yeah. Like, you have to have it all together. You have to have a perfect body. You got to look a certain way. I had an experience, one of my first coaching experiences. I went into it and I'm going in feeling so good. I have all these years of experience. And one of the trainers, one of the male trainers, had made some comment to some of the other staff, and not where I'm at right now, but about my body, and said, gosh, she doesn't even look like a trainer. She looks overweight. And that got back to me, and that was like, rip my heart out, and let's play on all my insecurities. Yeah. And all of a sudden it was like, I thought I looked okay. And now all of a sudden I'm this fat trainer, and who will ever listen to me? Who will ever want to be around me? And it had some really damaging effects. It trickled on to clients and members. And it wasn't until about a year after that incident, and he actually didn't even stick around for very long. It was about a year after that I had people come up and apologize to me, because they said, I judged you unfairly and harshly when I first met you, and you've wound up being someone that has made an impact in my life, and I was so wrong, and you're amazing, and on and on and on, and apologizing. I said, no need to apologize. I harbor no feelings, and thank you. But this is a hard industry. So anybody that looks at a trainer as, oh, they must have it together. I'm not speaking for all trainers, but gosh, I don't know any that haven't struggled at some point with feelings of insecurity. For sure. Yeah. I mean, sometimes trainers and can be some of the most insecure, because there is an image, and your body should look a certain way. And I've had 4 babies. My body's gone up and down, and I'm proud of that. That's probably my crowning glory in this life right now, are my 4 boys.
Being a mom. Yeah.
Being a mom is the best. If I had to have thunder thighs, Todd, the rest of my life to have those babies, I'll be carting those thunder thighs around. Yeah. I'm in. Yeah.
Wow. So well said. Thank you for sharing that. And I think those listening, or that advice is perfect. It's spot on. It really is. Reach out if you're struggling. Get up and move, even if it's just a walk around the block. Get those endorphins going and that kind of thing. If someone wanted to reach out to you right now, and they wanted to get a hold of you and ask you a question, or get involved in fitness somehow, or just ask you anything about that, or about this belief cast today, what would be the best way for them to do that?
Sure. Well, I'm so open. People can reach out to me on Instagram. I'm on there as Coach Britt Rodrigues, with an S. And so, look me up on there. I had a website up for a while. Next Level Nutrition is my nutrition company that I started and worked with, but I actually took it down because I was so busy with what I'm doing now and coaching that thought I stay busy off referral only. So I thought I need to stop advertising.
I got to slow this down.
I was going to slow this down, but I love it. It is a passion of mine. I love working with people, and as much as I'm no size 2, but that's okay. And I celebrate people of all different shapes and sizes. The goal is to be healthy. Yeah. Of course, we all want to look good, but one of the things I have found a lot of joy in is helping people on their fitness journey, helping people with nutrition. I love foods. I love figuring out the little equation of every single person is unique and different. And so physiologically, there should not be a cookie cutter program and approach to your fitness nor your nutrition. And so I love helping people figure that out and educating them. My goal as a trainer is to educate to the point where they don't need me anymore. Which makes me a really bad business person, because I always loved when I can help someone get to the point where they feel independent, that they don't need me every day. Right? Well,
I think that's what makes you good, actually. I think that's what makes you unique and powerful at what you do.
I did work in a facility once with another trainer, and he was waiting for a client to come show up. And he was making fun of her and had said, all she keeps wanting to talk about is how her dumb hormones have helped her get fat, and it's not her hormones, it's Ben & Jerry's. And he was just rolling his eyes. Oh, wow. And I think I had a visceral reaction in that moment. And I made a decision. I will never be that trainer or be that person. That is awful. And you're the fraud. And that's how I felt in that moment. And I just think, if someone is looking to have just some help and guidance, look around. There's a ton of trainers and coaches out there, but you've got to find the one that kind of speaks to you and really sees you and it really cares about you as a person. And if someone is not a good fit, there's and a million others out there. Find that fit and find that person that inspires you to be a better person. And that puts that mirror up in front of your face of like the worth and value that you have as a human being, and not just your worth based off your size or your weight.
Yeah, I love that. Very well said. Well, folks, there we go, man. That was amazing, Brittany. Thank you so much for taking the time to share a portion of your story. I know there's so much more. We could probably spend another hour or two, but thank you for being willing to come share and be vulnerable with us.
Thank you.
Again, like I said, I love your energy. I love what you do. I love how you carry yourself. And thanks for, sharing a portion of that with us today.
I appreciate you listening. And I hope that, your listeners can have one good takeaway out of this. And that, if any of them are kind of feeling despair, I'm happy for them to reach out to me, message me like, life is worth living. Yeah. And I've been there too, where I've questioned, is it? But it really is. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I also want to give a quick plug to Orangetheory Fitness. I love that place. It's really improved me, not just physically, but mentally, spiritually, the whole package. And it's my morning meds. I'm not kidding you. It's like, man, I'm going to go get my medication.
Isn't it great?
And I love all the coaches there and the owner and everything. You guys are fantastic people. And I know you're in it for the right reasons. And I think people feel that. And that's why we love it there.
I have to mention, your listeners need to know how amazing you are, that Todd is going to go and represent Sandy Studio in a week here. He's one of our athletes. We have a little event coming up called the Orange Cup. And this is something fun that we do just amongst the Morocco studio, so our studio owner, and we're doing a friendly competition, and we did little qualifying events, and Todd is like our top dog in just about every area, but we're having him compete in our run and then in our shoulder press. So Todd's a little athlete. Those of you guys listening, don't let his modesty throw you off.
I paid her to say this, so thank you.
Right? I'll cash that in later.
No, thank you for the plug there. But yeah, the place is fantastic. You're fantastic. And, my listeners are going to love this. So thank you so much,
I hope
Brittany.
So. Thank you.
Awesome. You really are. Well, there you go, guys. Another amazing Belief Cast. Brittany Rodrigues. Please, reach out to her if you have a question for her. Please do so. Or you can reach out to me, and I'll make sure she gets the message and we get you taken care of. If you're struggling, do what she said. Take that advice. It does work. And again, thank you for believing in me and listening to this week after week after week. It really means a lot to me. And please share this with someone that you may know that needs a little uplift and a little boost in their life. And so thank you. Love you guys. And until next time.